Each of us, in our own way, is privileged to work with Freeman Hrabowski. He is not only a dreamer, able to envision a world where everyone has equal opportunity to actualize his or her potential. He is a guide, and he is a moral compass for us all. He is a mentor, a leader, a colleague, and a friend. And so many people say, you work at UMBC. You are so lucky to have Freeman Hrabowski as your president. And if you will allow me, my answer is always, no, we are truly blessed. I am privileged to introduce Dr. Freeman Hrabowski.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Why don't we? Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. You got me. Thank you so much. Thank you. See, you weren't supposed to make me start getting all emotional and stuff. I'm trying to be analytical here now for a moment. Wait a minute. You know, before we do the closeout and just think for a moment about what this all means, I did want to give any panelist a chance to answer Derek Scott's question. I was sorry we didn't get a chance to answer that question. Were there any comments? Did anybody have, some of the panelists? He was asking a question, and I know we needed to go into the other session. Were there any comments that anybody wanted to make about that at this point? Or else you can talk with them afterwards. And then Sue Rosenberg wanted to ask a question. My Meyerhoff chair. You okay? All right, okay. Let me ask a broad question. Let me start by saying that I want you to, for my guests and for the alumni and students, would you give all of the people who work to make this happen and the Meyerhoff staff and faculty a hand for what they do? You give them a hand, all of them. Lamont and Ernie, and really an incredible job. Incredible job. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely. Let me get a feel for the audience for a minute. How many are current students at UMBC right now? Got all my, yeah. And then you see, so we got, you know, now this is what you call intrusive advising. So the alumni know this, and our guests from other campuses will appreciate this, that it's not a matter of whether somebody will come. We just understand it's a part of being a Meyerhoff is when there are things we're supposed to do, we do them. So it's not even so much about forcing people as much as it is, it's just what we do when we are supposed. And we really wanted them to get a chance to have some exposure to the panel discussions and to the alumni. And so after this session, we'll have a 15-minute break, and then I'm asking all the alumni to come back, and we're going to have what we call a Meyerhoff family meeting, just for our alumni and students. And the purpose of any Meyerhoff family meeting is when students get a chance to give advice to students. And I really do want advisors who are now alumni, people who can give advice to do just that. So alumni, start thinking about advice you have for current students, if you would. And current students, start thinking about what questions, the good, the bad, and the ugly, you want to ask of alumni. What was it like when the older Meyerhoffs, I mean, I'm calling all those who are M1s through M12s. I'm going to call you the old timers. You like that? I'm arbitrarily making that the number, all right? And so for the members of the Leadership Alliance who are still here, Valerie and everybody, would you all give the Leadership Alliance a hand? All the campuses that are here, I'm very pleased and really mean that. And I've met, 33 institutions, and what's great about it is that we are strengthening partnerships with all the institutions you saw here and places, and that attitude you saw with Gail Slaughter is the same one you see with Joel Oppenheim, and I can go around the room with people who are, Jocelyn is here from Harvard, and people who've worked with us for years. Here is the question that I want, particularly the colleagues from other campuses, faculty who are here from our campus, and alumni who might want to answer. The question is, what is the significance of having a 20th anniversary or 25th anniversary or whatever? What, from your perspective, what has this experience meant? And what should we take from it? And I'm inviting, encouraging colleagues from other campuses to help us think through what this has meant. I should tell you that one of our goals, the reason I said this last night, one of the reasons we did this year, keep in mind that we received our first grant from Bob Meyerhoff in 1988. And that's why we say it's the 20th anniversary. So in 1988, we began looking for the first group of students who became M1s who came in 89, I think. Am I right? M1s, the old timers, Lance, you right? The and I was planning to do this a year from now, but it was at last year's annual dinner that Bob Meyerhoff said, "I want to do it now. I want to see what it looks like. What's the it when you bring back a lot of alumni? What would it look like?" He just wanted to be inspired by it, and it was a great idea. Now, people who have to do the work, you can imagine, we were all thinking, "Oh my God, that's a lot of work." That's why I wanted to thank all the staff members, everybody who were involved, because it's high stakes, high risk, right? Because it could have been, when you get a lot of people together, there's a greater probability things will go wrong, right? And so last night, people kept saying, "Aren't you enjoying yourself?" Well, if anybody's ever been a part of a wedding, you know how you just will be glad if you get through it, all right, without people being really upset. So I was very pleased and exhausted about 11:30 last night, and so I've talked to Bob Meyerhoff several times today, and he's been thrilled. It's been great. With that said, though, let's just take a few minutes and analyze and reflect on what we do. And this is in the spirit of the Meyerhoff program. I should say this to my colleagues. We ask students to reflect on their experiences, from the Summer Bridge program to their research experiences in labs to their classroom experiences. We ask them to analyze what they mean when they say somebody is a good teacher. It's not just because somebody's nice. It's got to be more than that, right? We ask them to analyze what they mean when they said it was a good research experience. Doesn't always mean that they had success in terms of a paper. It might mean what they learned from failure, right? So, and what I'm saying is, so in that spirit of Meyerhoff, I'm asking us to reflect on what can we say about the past 24 hours? What should we take from this? What are the lessons learned? What surprised you? What was reaffirming? What gives you hope? And what are our challenges? So, who wants to go first? All right. I love it. A Meyerhoff alum. Give her a hand. It's Yasmin. Give her a hand. And it may sound corny to people from other campuses, but people in Meyerhoff know we applaud all the time. Why? Because everybody needs support. It's just that basic. Everybody needs encouragement. You can say what you will, whether you are a faculty member, in different ways. It just helps when you get that applause, just to say, yeah, it's okay. Whatever you want to say, just say it. So, Yasmin, go right ahead. Mm-hmm.
Good evening, or good afternoon, rather. So, I realized in the past few
I'm
days,
sorry, Yasmin. I need my students to know who you are. For my students,
apologize.
Students need to be inspired.
Sure.
You tell them who you are.
My name is Yasmin Dasakolde. I am an M9, and I'm currently finishing my PhD at Harvard University in biophysics.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Give her a hand for that.
Now, the one thought, and one of the most powerful thought that I have over the past few days is that within the confines of the program, let's just limit it to the Meyerhoff program, I submit to you that we have probably one of the most powerful group of scientists in the world. We think about it. Each one of us, in whatever endeavors we will have, will cover every single area of science. Let's just think about it that way. Biophysics, medicine, engineering, material science, you name it. And it was a wow moment for me because I thought, this is just my family, but my family is powerful in that way. It's powerful in terms of intellectual property. It's powerful in terms of future potential. And I hope that each one of us, as we leave today or tomorrow, and we go back to our labs and our regular life, we remember that we are all part of this network that goes beyond each one of us, and that we continue to dream in whichever way we can. It might be continuing the mentoring, it might be continuing to be involved in science, even if you don't stay in science, right? It might be involved in making sure that we talk to other institutions that might be interested in replicating the program in any ways. So this is what the 20th anniversary meant. It meant that it has been going on for 20 years, and that we have the power to make it go for the next millennium. With us, by ourselves, with our children, with our grandchildren. And that goes beyond the wonderful work that the staff has done. This has just been the nucleus. We can just take it.
Give her a hand.
Run with
it. There's a message there about being bigger than any one person, or even bigger than any one university. When we think about, for Meyerhoff and for being a part of a group of a community of scientists, of researchers, and thinking about, as we go through looking at the different areas of research people are involved in, and how we might be able to support each other and pull others into that work, Yasmin. That's very significant. I would suggest to the Leadership Alliance, given the institutions represented, that there is that notion for that group, quite frankly, Valerie and others, that the notion that clearly that alliance represents something bigger than any one institution and can be inspiring to other groups of institutions in that same way. But for us at Meyerhoff, you're absolutely right. One of the things we should be doing is documenting the areas of research, in the success in that research as people move along, and that's a part of what we're wanting to do. And that's why in the family meeting we want to make sure we understand where people are, what they're doing, what their plans are, and how we can give support. It's very important. Who's next? Hey there, birthday girl. We have the same birthday.
We do share the same birthday. I'm Dr. Kelly Mccants Price. I'm a member of the M2 class. I was the first African-American woman, well, I guess all of us were African-American. I was the first M2 female, first female from Prince George's County to come into the Meyerhoff program. So all my PG family. What I wanted to say is, this is, and I'm gonna speak for. Oh, it's Dr. Billy Christian. I'm going to speak for Dr. Oliver Myers and several of the other M1s, and for the people from my cohort, in saying that this is a particularly incredible and particularly emotional experience for us. We were here. I was really not expecting to get emotional, but we were here when it started. What we saw when we were here, when we were at UMBC, was that we were receiving money to go to school, that we were in a really nice family environment, and that it was very supportive. We could not see the vision. We couldn't see that in 1999 we would be, getting ready to move into the new millennium with Meyerhoff scholars. We couldn't see that in 2008 we would be selecting the M20 class, and we couldn't see that a 20th anniversary event would have to be held, as my husband has reminded me, with a dinner in 3 different rooms. What I said, I think I said to one of the M3s, was that for us, looking at this experience is kind of like looking at a tree, where we see ourselves, I guess, as the roots, and we see the new classes as the branches and leaves. So for us, it's an opportunity to see what has grown from what we started. And I think for the M19s and M17s and 18s who are looking at us going, oh my gosh, you guys do exist. It's a wonderful opportunity for you all to see from whence we've come. I think this opportunity and this experience this weekend is also giving us a chance to see where we need to go. I think building on what the soon-to-be Dr. Yasmin said, we need to really be thinking, now that we've got this wonderful bank of PhDs and MDs and people who have master's degrees and all of this wonderful experience, what can we do as alumni to assist in the mission of the program and to expand the mission of the program? What can we do as far as mentoring? What can we do, you know, to continue to support the program? And, you know, how far will we be able to move into administration? And not only as PhD researchers, but as people in clinical practice and in other areas, what can we do to influence the world? So I think the view of the program now, from my perspective, is so much more global than it used to be. You know, when I was here, there were 35 students in the program, and now there are 234 on campus. And so, you know, so it's a very, very incredible thing to look at it and to now be able to say we're so much more global. Yes. We've been many different places, we've done many different things, and so now we're ready to go on and to be able to influence things that happen policy-wise and research-wise from here.
Kelly, tell them where you work now. Tell them what you...
I got my PhD at Ohio State in clinical psychology, and I've made the decision to go and work with at-risk youth. So I do evaluation and consultation work for the DC Public Schools, DC Charter Schools, and the Maryland Department of Juvenile Services, working with some of the more difficult children who have not necessarily had the same type of experiences that we've had.
Give her a hand for that. Dr. Billy Christian. I'm sorry. Oh, Valerie, please. And then Dr. Christian.
Thank you. I'm
Tell my students who you are, Val, would you?
I'm Dr. Valerie Wilson. I'm Associate Dean of the Graduate School at Brown and the Executive Director of the Leadership Alliance, a group that I am proud to serve with. And I wanted to follow up on the comments from the two former Meyerhoff scholars who are now emerging into their own as professionals. And in response to the question that you asked, so what should we be doing now? And this whole day and yesterday was filled with a series of the accomplishments of the program as it started here at UMBC. And the panel that we just had was asked to address how can this experience be replicated. And so we've heard how various people have taken various elements of the program and attempted to replicate it in their own environment, in their own way, because quite frankly, the success has to be a local success based on the parameters and environment at those, in that particular locality. But what I want to say is about the role of not only UMBC, but the Meyerhoff scholars who have gone on into their own professions. Part of the miracle of replication or spreading this is now your responsibility. This is one of the things that we are beginning to talk to our Leadership Alliance alums, some of whom are Meyerhoff alums as well, that you are now embarking on careers, and your careers are very diverse in very many different settings. And so take these elements of the Meyerhoff program and create your own mini Meyerhoff wherever you are. Wherever you are. For the doctor that just spoke, where she's working in a particular area that was not necessarily the emphasis of the Meyerhoff program, but certainly is at an interface where she can make a difference in the lives of a young person, then an opportunity to engage those people, those students, in the kind of intrusive mentoring, the kinds of skill setting, the kind of building networks, all of those principles that were designed. Take those principles that you can employ and deploy at your particular setting and begin to build your own networks. To the extent that you have successes, then those are the things that need to be communicated back to the root, to the Meyerhoff program here, because that then not only contributes to the large number of primary recipients, but then the secondary recipients. Remember, the whole point of the Meyerhoff program, the point of the Leadership Alliance program, the point of many programs trying to do this, is not to build one by one, but in fact to get to a log scale. And you now have gotten to the point where you have enough to get to that log scale. And so now that you're there and you're in these positions and you're teaching and you're doing research or you're in medicine, mention that you were a Meyerhoff Scholar. Mention that these are the kinds of things you've learned. And in that place, then mentor those people who are around you and then communicate what you've done back to the Meyerhoff program, because that's where the successes are going to begin to happen across the world.
It's excellent. Give her a hand for that, would you? You know, I actually got a grant some years ago. I was very fortunate to get one of those Atlantic Philanthropy grants to begin to document where our students are. One of the big challenges when you have graduated 500 people is to know where they are, just to know where they are, and then what they're doing and what the experiences are. And I mean, part of the vision has to be using technology, and I want some of my people in the room, some of the experts to think about this, how we are able to build this community of scholars through technology that allows us to support people in their work. I like what Valerie said about creating your own Meyerhoff experience in different ways, what the value of the Meyerhoff program and what can be done. One of the things that we will talk about in our Meyerhoff family meeting with the Meyerhoff scholars who are alums and with those who are here is how we can develop a mentoring relationship, I believe, from using Meyerhoff alums to mentor through technology, especially current Meyerhoff students. One of the really disappointing parts for me over the past 20 years is that many of the people who had said they would mentor in the Baltimore area, people of color, black, scientists, physicians, some have been very helpful. Many were disappointed because they disappointed the kids. They said they would do it, and they didn't. And these were many of my friends. These were my friends who meant well, but just hadn't gotten into the habit of being consistent. But for an 18-year-old, if you tell them you're going to do something and you don't do it, you're devastated. And a lot of my alums know what I'm talking about. And so I'm saying one of the things that I want to get out of this is a commitment from the alumni in the Meyerhoff program to take on a student in the program now and to be in contact every month, just by email or whatever is one of the ideas. So I appreciate what Valerie said. Dr. Billy Christian and then Dr. Isaiah Warner.
I am Dr. Billy Christian. I go by Bill now. But
and we, and I have to tell everybody, I am usually, to colleagues at UMBC, we all Freeman and Susan, whatever our names are, but the reason we keep doing this doctor thing is it is so new to see so many, and I'm loving it. I really am. Go ahead, Dr. Billy Christian, who was so lazy at UMBC, and is So that says to all my lazy students, you can get it together and get a PhD from Rice. Oliver knows that Billy was and now he's a PhD in math and doing well. Go on, Dr. Billy Christian. That's what you call calling somebody out, if you didn't know. Go ahead, Billy.
I'll say my PhD's in computational and applied math, and I wasn't going to say this, but there's a small cohort or contingent of black PhD mathematicians, and we get together typically every summer. Dr. Hrabowski gave the keynote address one summer, and he had the unmitigated temerity
what about terms?
To call me out as the laziest smart person. And so
he gave me a perfect 780 specifically, I remember. Math, and just as smart as he could be, but just wasn't ready to be super motivated. Yeah. But got it together and got his PhD. And give him a big hand, would you?
But now my colleagues know of me as the laziest smart person. But anyway, also at the risk of offending Dr. Wilson, there's no such thing as a former Meyerhoff.
Oh.
Once you're a Meyerhoff, you are always a Meyerhoff.
Remember that. Give him a hand for that. That's a good. That's good. That's good.
But,
that's very nice. It's very nice.
So this weekend for me has been, I'll say, convicting in that I live 15 minutes from campus, and I have pretty much never met the current group of Meyerhoff students, those who are currently at UMBC. And, you know, it's like when you go to a family reunion and you see that cousin from the other side of the tree, as Kelly mentioned, the root and the tree. You see that cousin and you don't really know who they are. I feel convicted that I'm not doing everything I can as a Meyerhoff because more is expected of me. You know, Doc mentioned the other black scientists in Baltimore, and truly there are many. And if I'm not responsible for my program, why would we expect anyone else to? And sure, they don't know that, but I can't expect more of anybody else than I'm willing to do myself. So seeing all these beautiful people, I had a meeting at church this morning, and I was just telling everybody, you know, I was just blown away by, you know, the graduating class saying, you know, I'm getting my bachelor's in this, I'm going for my PhD in that, you know, it's just, it inspired me to say, what more can I do as a Meyerhoff to not go build another Meyerhoff program, while that's good, but what can I do to build up the Meyerhoff program that exists? I was convicted so much that I pulled out my phone and I had to text my niece and just let her know, hey, I miss you and I love you, because that's how I feel about all of you.
Let's give him a hand. This is great. Let me tell you something that he said. He said so many things that were powerful, because it is true. Once a Meyerhoff, always a Meyerhoff. Whether you stay in science or not, always a Meyerhoff. Because it's a way of thinking and it's a connection we have. Number two, he said, if we don't do it for our program, it is your program. It is your program. One day I will leave UMBC, and I'll always be a part of Meyerhoff, but you will always be a Meyerhoff. It will always be your program. It will always be your university. And so, I mean, keep that thought. It's very significant. The third point about relatives is, Joel Oppenheim said something yesterday. Joel, I knew I had white cousins in Birmingham. I didn't know I had white cousins in New York. So we'll have to talk after this. Joel has told me he was my cousin. Nice. It's very nice. It's nice to meet another cousin. All right. So relatives count. He gave that speech and told me he had done the tree thing and that he is my cousin. So it's very interesting. We'll talk after this. All right. Isaiah, go right ahead.
Yeah. Freeman, when we think of you, we associate you with the Meyerhoff program and the changes that you've made within that program. But in fact, it's my opinion you've changed the campus. The attitude of the Meyerhoff has permeated beyond the Meyerhoff. You've had a number of students who have gone on and gotten PhDs who are not Meyerhoffs. Right. And I think you should document that because, in fact, that is a result of the Meyerhoff program. Yes. I think of Tracy Willis, who got a PhD in chemistry from LSU.
Yes.
And there are a number of other students that you need to document, and there's no doubt in my mind, had you not created the Meyerhoff, those students would not have been here and gone on and gotten PhDs too. So I think that needs to be documented as you document the Meyerhoff.
Yes, I appreciate that. Yeah. Dr. Warner does such a great job. Give him a hand, would you? I mean, in fact, the best news for me often is that sometimes when I'm talking to students who are getting ready to go off to PhD programs, MD, PhD, and MD, they are not Meyerhoffs. And that's a good story. That's a very good story because Meyerhoffs get as much support as anybody. And we're trying to get other students of all races to get as much support as we can give them. But it is very important when you can see them doing well too. And that has everything to do, and I want to say this, it has everything to do with the culture of the campus, the expectations of faculty pulling all types of students into the labs. You know, and it does make a difference, it really does. And then getting staff support, but it's a great point. Impact of the program on others on the campus. Yes, sir, Dr. Oliver Myers.
Good afternoon. My name is Oliver Myers, PhD in mechanical engineering, and I'm an M1.
And just so the students will know, he's from a little country town. He said this when he first came in, a little country town called Brandywine, Maryland. I'll never forget that. Yes. Brandywine. And I have to tell you this, and he knew his high school preparation was not as strong as some science and tech schools. And yet he said, but I will do it. And he did it. Give him a hand for that. Would you do that?
Thank you. I actually would be remiss if I didn't get up and say something today as with regards to what the 20th year anniversary meant to me. And I could summarize it with one word: love. It would be one word with a three-tier definition. First, love as a noun. And no, I'm not an English major. Now, the love as a noun is the emotion and the feeling that you show towards one another. The second is as a verb, is the actions that you give to show that love. But the third is actually something I developed, is an acronym. Love starts with L, leadership, academic success, university leadership. UMBC has become a leader not only locally, but nationally and globally. And a lot of it has been based upon the Meyerhoff program and the presence of Dr. Hrabowski. O is for organization, how things are structured. The Meyerhoff program is a very rigid and structured program that has made sure that we are focused and disciplined into obtaining the PhD, MD, PhDs. V is for vision and direction and focus. Dr. Hrabowski has planted the seed of pursuing the PhD, of giving back, of developing not only our own internal Meyerhoff programs, but developing the existing Meyerhoff programs, and then further on beyond that, as was mentioned before, developing programs wherever we go and giving back and mentoring. And E is for empowerment and understanding, commitment, and expansion. Thank you.
It's very nice. Yes, sir. Go ahead. Okay.
Hello, my name is Jamie Hurd. I'm an M17 biology major, and this weekend has been amazing for me, actually. There was a young lady, I can't recall her last name, Noelle. I met her a while back, actually, last summer, and she said something to me that was very inspiring. She told me to remember that grad school is not the end, because I was telling her about how I'm nervous and I'm looking all over the place, not sure what to do. And this weekend, with that said and with everything else that's been said, being able to see what everyone's done, people who I was able to interact with just as a freshman coming in, and see where people are now. It's been amazing because I'm realizing now that, grad school's not the end, and neither is this, and I got to keep going. And it's a reaffirmation of faith in my goals. That's what this is. And I think it's that for a lot of us younger crews out here, and I think for everyone else who is inspiring us, it's also an inspiration because we realize now that we want this to go for another 20 years. I want to be here 20 years later and be able to say to a young man, a young lady, don't be discouraged. What are you talking about? This is just the beginning, babe. And that's what this is for me. Thank you.
It's great, Jamie. It's great. Those are three powerful words. Don't be discouraged. I tell you. Who's next? Who's next? Is that you, Dr. Lawrence Neely?
Sir.
Yes, sir. From California.
Indeed.
Indeed.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Lawrence Neely.
I have to tell you that his mother called me when he was in the 10th grade. His mother called me.
Where's the red paper? Just hold it up.
He's in the 10th grade, and his mother said, I've been reading about this program, and I really want my son to come, but I need to know you're going to take care of him, because she said he was a premature baby, so he's real gentle. And he came, and he was as big then as he is now. I said, premature. Hello, Dr. Hrabowski. Hello, my. And to his mama, he's still a premature baby. I want my colleagues from other campuses to know this is not unusual. We have a lot of laughter. Laughter helps with a lot of things. So go ahead, Dr. Lawrence Neely. Yes.
Thank you immensely.
Yes,
Thank you immensely.
Tell the students where you went to school and everything. Let them know.
I can start with my birth weight. I completed my PhD at Stanford University in mechanical engineering, and am presently a postdoc at MIT, also in mechanical engineering. And I've been, like so many here, I've been filled with a lot of emotion over these past couple of days, and it's actually hard for me to describe what I'm feeling now because it's not simple in the sense that I've shared this great sense of pride and amazing sense of pride just to look around the room and say, man, I remember these people when some of us were very small. Now we're out in the world and we're doctors and it just happens again and again. You see a doctor stand up and then another and then an MD, PhD, and it's just like overwhelming, this overwhelming sense of pride and accomplishment. But in thinking about the fact that these are the closing remarks and I'm leaving this place and going back out into the world, I'm experiencing a bit of, I guess what I should say is sadness. Because it's been very long since I had this feeling of being in this place with all of these people like me, and we all sort of forget what it's like to be the only person in the classroom, to be the only black student, to be the one, maybe the one of two existing out in the world. And in leaving here, I'm realizing that I'm returning to that. And one of the questions I have in hearing about Kiki offer these wonderful thoughts about this notion of a network and a meta-network, which were so insightful. What cohort are you in? Okay, that's it.
I just realized that. From Western High School.
The only cohort. 5. You had your turn.
My students are saying you're just old. It doesn't matter what you're just old. That's
and I would love to speak to each of them that believe that. But honestly, just really trying to understand, one, what it means to go back out into that space. And I completely appreciate and believe in this notion of taking what we've gained to replicate the program, but also have the strong sense of the extent to which, just as Kelly was mentioning, she was in M2 and didn't have this vision of what was beyond, and now we can see PhDs. I'm in that same place again. So I've received my degree, but I'm presently a postdoc, but I'm trying to look beyond to see what it is for me as a professor, as someone who's in a position to actually replicate the program, to add to this in a very substantial and fundamental way, and wondering, and sort of have been re-enlivened with that reality here, but also wondering what is this network that's in place to give me this ongoing sense of support, to remind me, where is the intrusive sort of counseling, advising, and actually, no, don't call me. But really wondering, what is it that we're putting in place to make sure that this vision is fulfilled in its entirety? Yes. So what does it take to make sure that I become a professor, if that is what I'm to become? It's a question to me. And I realize that I'm trying to answer a lot of these questions out in the world as if I were a student who had not come into the Meyerhoff program, right? So those students that did not take the Meyerhoff and went off and traveled their paths alone, now that I'm beyond and I have my PhD, I find myself in a very similar space. And I'm wondering what we can do to make sure that our vision, the dream, remains big, remains huge, both with respect to breadth, but with respect to this long view, so that we can all achieve what it is that we would hope that we are meant to achieve. So that's my question.
Thank you very much, Lawrence. Thank you. What I would say to you that it's, and some of my colleagues have heard me say this, I really had not thought about the challenges we would face once people finished different degrees. What next? And how, because the research shows that mentoring for people of color and women in science is very uneven, And a part of what I hope we can do as we think about how to connect people is to continue to have conversations about the experiences people are having, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We are documenting some of that in the research we're doing on campus right now, but I'm going to be asking alums to help us with that. And a part of our success involves this, being able to give support to people who didn't go this route. You know, some of you, all of you know, I have been absolutely determined to get as many people to think about PhDs as possible. Because if we had not done that, so few would have done it. You know that. Because the world doesn't say to somebody black, go get a PhD. All right? You can think more MDs, and quite frankly, in many places, what I've been told over and over again by dear friends and colleagues is it's going to take, in fact, major reports have said that we don't have enough serious blacks to increase substantially the number of PhDs. We can get MDs, but it'll take another generation. And I'm saying that's not true. It will not take another 20 years. I mean, we're seeing right now, this is the example of significantly more PhDs. Now the challenge would be, okay, so when people get PhDs, when they get MD PhDs, when they get other degrees, how do we give support? I'm saying about my determination because we're producing the PhDs, we can afford to look at how we continue to produce PhDs, but how do we support people who did not get PhDs, who did other things? How do we support them in their careers? I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. Jason may not be here. Jason Penix is in energy trading. One of our new initiatives involves science and technology and entrepreneurship, including diversity. Because some people want to get into the business community. Some want to start companies. Some may want to do that with or without a PhD. And those are great goals. One of the reasons it's great goals, some of these people are going to get really rich and they can really give us a lot of money to the Meyerhoff program. I have no shame. It's okay. So sometimes when somebody says Boston Consulting, that's okay. We'll deal with that. All right. So, but we don't want to lose sight of the need to produce more for the professoriate, more for corporate and corporate science, but also these other areas. And we're going to need in our meeting to talk about how do we help people not to feel bad if they decide not to go on for the PhD. You know, that's another part of the issue. I know it is. But we do need to figure out, and your question is well taken, and it will be a part of our ongoing discussion through technology, how we give mentoring, advising, supporting, and connecting to people and get them tied into people. Several people have said to me, please give me somebody I could talk to. I mean, I'll never forget what Ty was saying. I want to meet some other black women scientists. So to meet Dr. Johnson, Marion Johnson, wherever she is, was great. That's just an example of what we need to be doing for everybody, to give them other examples of both, not just black scientists, but of people of any race who are willing to mentor and give support. We'll be working on that. Hi.
Actually, she can go because she was standing before me.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that.
It's okay.
One of our mentors from the early years.
Yes.
Tell them who you are.
I am Dr. Lisa Portis Morgan. I have a doctorate in pharmacology from the University of Iowa. Mm-hmm. I have comments from two perspectives of the Meyerhoff program. First, as a mentor to an M3, Crystal Watkins, is my mentee. And secondly, as a former staff person, yes. Mm-hmm. And my responsibilities were as the graduate and professional programs coordinator. So my emotion from this weekend is just an enormous sense of pride. Mm-hmm. I see students who may not have had the nicest meetings with me in my office about not doing their internship applications or not doing their graduate school applications, but to see where they are now, what they're doing, listening to their oral presentations, the confidence and knowledge that they have. They're so much smarter than I am. And if I may, and I hope I don't embarrass him, but Calvin Williams is an example of one of those harsh meetings because Calvin is a very brilliant young man. Mm-hmm. And I met him, he was M9, mm-hmm. and So when I came on, my first summer bridge class was the M10s. So the fall of Calvin's sophomore year, when we had that initial family meeting, everyone was to stand up and say what they did for the summer. Knowing Calvin's GPA and what Calvin can do, when he stood up and said, I worked at the car wash.
And he was an A student. He always has been an A student.
My comment to him was, that is the last car wash that you will ever work at. And it has been. And just amazingly has gone on to do wonderful things, as have all of the students. And so my charge to you, I was the first African-American woman to get a degree in pharmacology at the University of Iowa. Many of you will also be first to do doctorate degrees in your area of study. My charge to you is to not make yourselves the one and only. I took it upon myself as a graduate student to see that there were other African Americans in the department when I was there, and other African American women. So in 20 years, God willing, I'm still around, I would like to come back and see the M26, 27, M30s with, you know, degrees and say, I was the 10th in my department to get my degree. Don't be the first. If you are the first, don't be the only. Thanks.
That's very nice. Very nice. Yes.
Hello, my name is Jacqueline Jackson, and I'm from Winston-Salem State University. Basically, I am kind of a branch off of the Meyerhoff program. And I just wanted to say that I am very blessed. I feel very blessed and thankful to have been invited to this program because it has been such a rewarding experience. Just to be in this room with so many familiar faces from Abercrombie's and other summer internships, it's like, wow, we are really trying to achieve the same goal. We are trying to be better and, you know, kind of pave the pathway for future generations, just like the first cohort of the Meyerhoff program did for us. We have to do for our future generations as well. And so it's just like striving for excellence and success continuously, and I just love that, and I'm just very thankful. Thank you.
Great. Congratulations. Hey, Michael Aaron.
Hi.
Michael Aaron, for the old timers, you'll appreciate this. Michael Aaron was captain of the rugby team and just graduated from UMBC with a 4.0 in mechanical engineering. Give him a big hand for that. Tell them where you are now and what you're doing, man.
Hi, my name is Mike Aaron. I'm M14, first year PhD student in bioengineering at Georgia Institute of Technology. Dr. Hrabowski, what is your three-point plan for your future?
You know, it's just like Michael Aaron asked that difficult kind of question. You know what it is?
What?
Focus, focus, focus. All right? Seriously, I appreciate that. I'm going to take one more question from another brilliant, I have to call her out. She's a brilliant student who did this, Millie, and she was right. I did not want her to run for vice president of the student government because I didn't think she would have the time given all of what she was doing. And we always had a loving, fighting relationship, loving and fighting relationship. She's brilliant, brilliant. And I encourage students to be independent, I really do. But what I want to say is that she said to me, I will do this. And I want you to know she was a superb vice president of student government years ago, kept that A- average, and said to me, just looking, she said, I told you. So give her a hand, Dr. Camilla.
So I've been drafted. I hesitate to come up just because, one, I'm totally, completely, overly emotional this weekend. The second is I didn't know what story Doc was gonna pull out. So I'm happy that it was a somewhat positive one.
Tell them again though who you are. Tell them who you are, Camilla.
I'm Dr. Camilla Jackson. I'm an M4, which I was told by a prospective M20 that they were 2 when I started college. So that's really nice. I hope they don't get it. No, I'm just playing. I did a bachelor's and master's degree at UMBC and went on to Johns Hopkins and did a PhD. I then spent 2 years at University of Cape Town doing a postdoc, and I'm currently at NASA Goddard working on Hubble servicing. So I'll probably be the last person. I have so many things that I want to say. I'm totally overwhelmed. Like I said, I'm very happy to be here and see all of you. I have always been inspired by my peers. I keep saying that I met the smartest people I have ever met at UMBC during selection weekend. Seriously, the most brilliant, most hardworking people that I've ever met in my life. And they all looked like me, which was definitely a positive. There's a lot of things that have been happening with alumni, which I've been trying to be involved with, and I'm probably going to echo a lot of things that Billy has been saying, Kelly, Crystal, even Lawrence, about you know, we talked about the PhD, and you know, now we're here, okay, and we go off into the world. I have 8 o'clock meeting Monday morning, every Monday morning, and I'm one of 2 or 3, it's about 50 or 60, 70 people there, okay? So that's real, that's still there, no matter how many PhDs are in this room, that's out in the world, that's what it looks like. So funding agencies, it still looks like that. The second thing is that alumni are very, very interested in reaching back. We are, and we hear that charge, and we have that charge within ourselves. So Brooke Burhani, who is not here, no, right? He had the brilliant idea of doing a service project on Thursday before we came. So I just want to give some reflections on that. I was there with the lovely, almost Dr. Yasmin, who I just met that day, lovely lady. And we went to Central High School in Capitol Heights, Maryland, stone's throw from Washington, D.C. It was a very interesting time. It was a MESA group and a math student group. We both talked about college, GPAs, graduate school, and I had talked about a lot of what I do. I think people need to hear what the next step is, why a PhD or whatever. So I talked about that, had all kinds of posters and astronaut gloves and all kinds of goodies from NASA. The kids were a mix. Some quietly and patiently paid attention to us, and some did not. And that's real. We know what kind of community that we were in. But the most positive thing that happened is that 2 or 3 students, maybe Yasmin, came up to us afterwards and thanked us for coming. I know it's still not cool to be black and smart. But one of the young men I went to talk to was about this tall. I said, what's your GPA? Because I was saying, 3.5 is really what we need to be minimum. That's where the minimum we need to be, because we know the SAT scores may not be there. So we need to see that minimum 3.5, 3.8, 3.8 something. So I was very encouraged by that. And so I think it's, we're getting there. We're gonna, so we'll talk a little bit more about that tonight. But I just wanted to make sure that that people know that we are doing that. We are making that effort. It's the beginning, but we have started. So
it's excellent. Thank you, Camilla, very much. Thank you very much. So we're going. Last question. Last comment. Last comment. Right there. Last comment.
So I'm an M0. So I feel like I am eavesdropping. But my daughter's going to be an M20. And so my...
Give her a hand for that, first of all, to be a parent.
And so I work at some of these funding agencies. I work at Howard Hughes Medical Institute, and so I definitely understand where you're coming from. And I sit on a lot of panels that are concerned with diversity. And sometimes I'm there and I feel so incredibly depressed because they talk about all these problems with trying to get underrepresented minorities to do well in the sciences and to continue. And my children, who are twins, are going off and they're going to college and they both want to be scientists, and I believe they're both going to get PhDs. And I worry about them. This meeting has brought me so much hope for the future. You guys talk about the power beyond one. It is an absolute essential, and it is so incredibly moving and motivating. You can do more than you ever understand. It is also incredibly important that you guys hold Freeman to the fire when it comes to making sure you can network virtually.
Yes.
This electronic network is incredibly powerful. It doesn't take a lot of time, nor does it take a lot of resources. And my being someplace that usually people always want to get money, I like to say you can do things that don't take a lot of resources. So I think that my hope is tremendous. And the power in this room is so incredible, you don't even realize how incredibly powerful you are. And that there are problems out there that seem insurmountable, but with the amount of energy in this room and intelligence, you can move mountains, and you need to keep that in your brain at all times. Thank you very much.
That's excellent. Thank you very much. Very much. Let me just suggest in closing that there is a theme throughout the entire weekend which has to do with being the best. How do you create efforts, initiatives that result in people of color and others becoming the best at what they do? And that one of the things I'll be talking in the family meeting about is how we support each other in that notion. Number two, that something that you've heard me say before, we don't have time to be victims. We don't have time to be victims. Wherever we go, we need to understand we don't allow other people to define who we are. I've been in wonderful conversations with people from all the universities in here, with my students, as they have said, let's just talk about this, just to give them a chance to think back to that notion. We don't have time to be victims, and we don't allow other people to define who we are. Number three, though, for the group and for my colleagues from other places, the notion of looking at the best of what we have done here and looking at ways of supporting others as they work towards it, whether it is at LSU or NYU or Baylor or wherever, because some of those places are doing some of this great stuff right now. I can talk about graduate programs that work, where there are people who are supportive, and in MD, PhD programs. If you have not seen an article by Drs. Bass and Rutledge from our campus, Dr. Scott Bass is Vice President for Research. Dr. Janet Rutledge is our Senior Associate Dean of the grad school. Where are you? Are they here? You all stand. Let them sit. I call this my dynamic duo. Would you give them a hand? Because they have really worked with others like Dr. Summers and others to, along with people like Dr. Lindahl in the MARC program and others to look at what we do at the undergrad level to help with the grad school. For many of you before M10s, we really had not produced any blacks on our own campus with PhDs in science. And so we had to start looking at that, and this dynamic duo began to look at that. And their success has been extraordinary, but there is an article they wrote that I want to commend to my colleagues from other campuses and to the UMBC alumni, to the Meyerhoffs who are alumni, and it's called University as Mentor. And it comes as a result of all the work they're doing with, one award here somewhere, with the AGEP program from NSF and from some other programs involving the Faculty Horizons efforts, and looking at, quite frankly, the significance of the entire institution getting involved in the work. I mean, when you think about bringing students in at the undergrad or grad level and what it takes for them to succeed, yes, it has to do with advising and what happens in the classroom and in the labs, but it's the entire campus is the point they're making, and how we either welcome people or we push them away. Very important. And the significance is that it's published by the Council of Graduate Schools. We are a part of what's called the PhD Completion Project, because what we found was that not only did we not have students of color graduating necessarily, but about half of the white students were not graduating. And much of what has come out of that program can be attributed to what they did in talking with us about the undergrad experience and about our NSF advanced program. For the PhDs in the room, when we have our Horizons program for new PhDs and postdocs, what shows you the culture of UMBC, that there will be 80 to 100 women, PhDs from around the country coming to learn about their careers. At least 45 to 50% are women of color, African American and Latino. Would you give that group a hand for that? I mean, it's a really strong message, really strong message. And so, for me, and I will say what Lawrence said, I'm still trying to process this period, and I think most of us are. What does this experience mean? I'm going to ask you, alumni, but other colleagues, to write to us your reflections on the weekend, your suggestions, things you've seen here, things you've taken away from here, because a theme that I want us all to think about as a part of what this weekend should be is about documentation. How do we document, assess, and then document what is working, what is not working, not only on our campus, but as people go out? You see, every student who has left the Meyerhoff program and gone somewhere else has a story. And each of those stories tells us lessons that can be helpful to students in our own program at the university and beyond. And the more we hear those stories and the more lessons we learn, the more we can teach other people. And the more we can teach people how to teach about those lessons. And so documenting your stories and talking about it will be very important. And then finally, this has been reaffirming. I've never seen in one setting over this 24-hour period this number of people with graduate degrees looking like me in my life, and I'm 57 years old. And I'm not there. I can't even believe it yet. When I heard all my students saying doctor this and that, I just kept thinking, is that really the case? You know, I mean, it's like a dream. I'm very serious. It really is. And so it is. So students, and for my students, for the current Meyerhoff scholars, to see all of these brilliant alums, and one of them said it, Jamie said it, it's like you're real. You know, it's really interesting when you come back, they say you do exist, right? And when they see that you're human and I can tease you and call you lazy or whatever, they can see that you are not perfect, right? I don't think any of you were exactly perfect, right? That we all have challenges. You know, it is very much the case. It helps younger people to see that we all have to overcome something. Keep that thought. And so this has been a reaffirming experience. This is community at its best. Didn't you all like the way the staff had arranged to have the different hosts in the different rooms last night? I thought that was so cool. This is so-and-so from the Chesapeake room and so-and-so. You know? So the whole notion was building community, and I think Billy said it best to the people who are no longer on the campus. This is your program. I want you to take as much ownership of the future of every one of these Miles Scholars as any faculty member or I would take. If you can think that way. And I want to say to people who didn't go on to get PhD and maybe doing something else, we love you just the same. You are ours. You belong to us. And it's very important for you to hear that. You belong. It's so important. It's so important that you hear that. Because people make different decisions. In the first few years, let me say this, and I'll say this. I was going to say it at the alumni meeting, but I'll say it in front of my colleagues. I was scared as hell that with all of our hoopla about Meyerhoff, we would not be able to produce the PhDs. Because I have said this before in a biblical way, sometimes it's harder to get a black through a PhD program in science than it is to get a camel through a needle's eye. I saw my students having advisors who would die. I mean, just literally. They'd have to start over. I saw all kinds of life circumstances. And so you know, anybody who's been in the PhD program knows what I'm talking about. It is not a give. It is not. It takes a hell of a lot to get a PhD. Am I right? I mean, the research doesn't go well. You know, so in the first years we had to be overboard in talking about it just to try to see how many we could get through. So now we've got it going, and that's wonderful. And so now I can say to my students in general, and as a lot of my Meyerhoffs who are not PhDs know individually but don't know collectively, we love you. We're all family. You get my point? So we will support people. I've got most of the engineers were told in grad school, a master's is all you need. And so most stopped after that level. Well, they need to know we love them too, and I want their checks. I want them to know. But we will support them, all right? And this is their program. And so I wanted my colleagues from other campuses to hear me saying that part, because that is a challenge. When you push PhD and MD, PhD, how do you make other people feel special too? Because they have a special role. I understand what Marion was saying. And if we're gonna have people going for MDs, you see, MD, PhDs have everything paid. Most people who go for the MD, with few exceptions, take out big loans. You get my point? So I mean, all those challenges we have to think through. Bottom line is this: as Oliver said, whole lot of love in the room. A lot of love in a very emotional way. We will take the passion, the love, and couple it with analysis and reflection. And imagine 20 years from today, when all these current students who are looking in awe at all the doctor this and doctor have their PhDs. And I was thinking last night, 20 years from now, we'll have to use a convention center. So you think about it. You know, you just talk about more and more and more. Every student in here, I want you to think about this. This will be you one day standing up, calling yourself Dr. something, and talking about what you have to do. Write, colleagues, please write to us. Tell us what you think. Let us keep working and struggling together to do this noble work. Hold fast to dreams. For if dreams die, life is a broken-winged bird that cannot fly. Hold fast to dreams. For when dreams go, life is a barren field, frozen with snow. Focus, focus, focus. Thank you all. And we're going to take let me say this. We're going to take a 15-minute break. Then I want the students and alumni to come back into this room. Thank you all. Give yourselves a hand.